Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Tom Zuck's U.S. Civil War Letters, 1862, Part 1. Tom Zuck was my great-great-grandfather, and he was from Marion, Ohio. He served for close to 3 years in the Union Army in the Ohio Volunteer Infantry Company D. And he enlisted, let's see here, excuse me. He enlisted in August 9th, 1862, and he served until July 7th, 1865, was discharged in Mobile, Alabama. And the important the big thing that he was involved with was the siege and battle of Vicksburg, Mississippi. And during the war, of course, he kept a diary, if you've heard those videos of that. He also wrote letters, mostly to his wife and daughter, and wife Anna and daughter Nettie, and also some to his parents and siblings. They were married in 1861, and then their daughter Nettie was born in December of 61. Now, the first letter is September 62, so their daughter Nettie was not yet a year old. And then after the war, they had 2 more children, Ed and Frank. Frank was my great-grandfather, and then Tom Zuck died in 1870. Very sad. Covington, Kentucky, September 2nd, 1862. Dear wife and darling Nettie, I am sitting in the Covington Hospital trying to write you a few lines, but I guess it will be considerable of a scrawl as everybody about here is excited and talking about the expected attack of Confederate General John Hunt Morgan and his guerrillas on this place. The news we now have is that Morgan is within 40 or 50 miles of Covington, and a good turnpike to come on. We have as yet but 1 regiment here, but some 10 or 13 more are expected between this and tomorrow morning. Also, a convoy of gunboats will be up the river this evening. They have taken some of the convalescents from this hospital, 52, to perform provost duty in Cincinnati today, and I understand that some of the rest, if not all of the sick from this hospital, will be sent to Camp Dennison this evening. The ferry between here and Cincinnati was stopped this morning at 4 o'clock for all but military purposes. There is some of our boys out on picket duty today. I guess they will see sights before they get back. I have all the incidents of our journey journalized since we left Delaware, but my memorandum book is in my knapsack, and that is in charge of the steward, so I'll write them to you next time. You're ever in my mind, dear Anna, you and my sweet little daughter. And at this moment, when danger seems to surround us on every hand, I feel that it will not be long until we will be together again. Remember me in your evening prayers. Write soon. Your affectionate husband, Thomas Zuck. Covington Military Hospital, September 3rd, 1862. Dear Father and folks at home, you will be surprised when you receive this to learn that I am in this institution. I was sent here yesterday with the rest of the boys from our regiment that were unfit for duty. There is quite a number of our regiment here, but none of them, I believe, are as yet in a serious condition. We have excellent quarters and the best of attention. In fact, we want for nothing. This is indeed a soldier's home, or I might say sick and wounded soldier's home. We arrived here the night before last and were for that night kindly cared for by the citizens of Covington, and particularly the ladies. God bless them. We were considerably excited last night by the report that the rebel general Edmund Kirby Smith was upon us with 15 or 20,000 of an army, but the morning news served to dissipate the rumor and quell the excitement. Covington, Newport, and Cincinnati are now under martial law. Every citizen is required to take up arms and drill or work on the entrenchment. It is quite amusing to see the provost guard impressing men who are unwilling to take up arms, and there is a good many of that kind hereabouts. We can see them from the windows of our rooms every now and then impressing some reluctant individual who vainly hopes to escape by dodging into alleys and cutting corners, but it is of no kind of use. They have to come to it or be ordered under arrest. Our company went to the entrenchments this morning to work, and I guess they will quarter there for the present. They are some 2 or 3 miles from town. The rest of the regiment is scattered in all directions, but generally they are performing picket duty. I don't know how long we will remain here, but I do know, that we will stay until the rebels skedaddle from Lexington, our intended destination. I could fill a sheet or two, but they are fixing up for the hospital inspectors, who are to be here tomorrow, and there is so much fuss and annoyance that I cannot continue this much farther. We have been expecting some 150 or 200 wounded men here from Lexington for the last 48 hours, and some of them have already arrived. They sent quite a lot of sick to Camp Davis this morning in anticipation of their arrival. I can see the city of Cincinnati from our window, stretching along for miles up and down the Ohio River. It looks like a long, narrow strip of city, but I am told that there is 3 miles of city between us and the bluffs on the Ohio side. Everything here is as dull as it can possibly be. There is no business houses open after 9 o'clock in the morning, either here or in Cincinnati. But I must quit, as it is getting dark. Don't forget to write as often as possible. I am anxious to hear from you. I will write again soon and give you the incidents of the trip from Delaware, Ohio here. Our company letter is D. If you write, direct to Company D, 96th Regiment, Covington, Kentucky, care of Captain Dwyer. Your ever affectionate son and brother, T. F. Zuck. Covington Hospital, September 4th, 1862. Dear Wife and Nettie, as I have time that drags heavily on my hands, I don't know as I can improve it in a better manner than by writing to the, quote, loved ones at home. I begin to feel that life in the hospital is not the most pleasant in the service, nor yet is it the worse. We are surrounded by all the comforts that could be desired in an institution for the sick and wounded soldier. Yet there is a feeling of lonesomeness will come creeping over the mind when one begins to think of friends and home and the enjoyment of the society of wife and family, that at times becomes absolutely painful. Now, I don't want you to think that these are my feelings all the time. There are kind friends in the same room with myself who at times experience the same sensation. Yet the consciousness that we are in the path of duty to our country and our God serves to dissipate these melancholy daydreams. Now, after such dubious preamble, I will try and tell you what the boys are doing down here today. Our company went yesterday to the entrenchments to work. They are some 2 or 3 miles from the city. I hope to be able to join them soon. There is some other companies with them, but I don't know what ones. They have sent over 500 Negroes over from the city to help the boys at the entrenchments, which move, I think, is a righteous one. The excitement that prevailed in the 3 cities for the last few days is rapidly abating, although the strict military discipline that was at first inaugurated is still rigorously enforced. Men of all kinds of business that are able-bodied are required to perform military duty, that is in this place and Newport, under penalty of being sent to work on the entrenchments. Companies are constantly pouring in from Cincinnati and the interior to the defense of the Queen City. All of yesterday afternoon, the ferry at the foot of Vine Street, which is in full view from the window of our room, might have been seen crowded with troops crossing and marching to the scene of the expected conflict. There was a train of cars destroyed by the enemy on the Covington-Lexington Railroad within 15 miles of this place the day before yesterday. I don't know as I have anything new to write, as you can see all that I write in the daily newspapers. They are cleaning up the hospital today in anticipation of a visit from the U.S. inspectors. Everything has to look as neat as a pin. Our little cottage bedsteads with their bedding neat and pretty. The floors are nicely scrubbed and the windows washed. The boys are not even allowed to spit upon the floor without a reprimand from the mistress of the ward, who, by the way, is a bright, intelligent young lady from Ohio somewhere. She does not pass without a kind word for everyone. My intimate roommate is a young man from Marysville, Ohio. His name is Maines. He used to work in the Marysville Tribune office. He is orderly sergeant in Captain Hamilton's company. There is so much confusion that I will have to stop for this time. Write often, dear Anna. Kiss my dear little daughter for her papa. From your ever affectionate husband, Tom. P.S. Our address will be Company D, 96th Regiment, Covington, Kentucky, care of Captain Dwyer. Tell your pa and the girls to write to me. Send me a few postage stamps and don't forget those pictures. Covington Military Hospital, September 9th, 1862. Dear Anna and darling Nettie, it is just 1 month today since I put my name down for a soldier, and an unhappy month it has been for me, as I have not been well a single hour since I enlisted. But this morning things begin to brighten. I feel as though I can soon be able to join the regiment and be like the rest of the boys. Captain Dwyer has never been to see me since I have been in the hospital, and I don't like it pretty well. Lieutenant Williams came up the other day and stayed quite a spell. So did Mark Godman. They have both treated me like gentlemen. Yesterday I went up to our quarters and had a talk with the boys. They are all in fine spirits and ready for anything that may turn up. I learned after coming back to the hospital that our regiment had left Covington for some point about 10 miles distant. Our Company D remained in town to perform guard duty along the river. They will follow the regiment sometime today. The greatest surprise that I have experienced since I left home was on Sunday last. Maines, my roommate, had gone uptown after dinner and did not return till about 4 or 5 o'clock, and when he came back he began to tell me that I had lost something nice by not going uptown with him, as he had seen somebody that I would give something to see. And you may judge of my surprise when he told me he had seen your pa. You just ought to have seen me hustle around after the steward to get permission to go up to see him. I at length obtained the required permission and posted off as fast as my legs would carry me, and found him performing guard duty at the pontoon bridge, looking as unconcerned as any veteran soldier. Your pa tells me that he brought a letter from you for me and put it in the post office in Cincinnati, but somehow or other I cannot get it. I have tried at the Covington post office and at the company quarters and at headquarters, and still no tidings of the letter. Oh, dear Anna, if you only knew how anxiously I have sought for that letter, you would write me one every day or two. I have not as yet received a scratch of a pen from either Marion or Marysville, Ohio. I got that work cape from home today. It was brought here by Mr. J. Gray, but they sent no word with it, not a syllable. It is a very nice one. And lo, your pa is once more out of business. Oh, Anna, I'm so sorry that him and Deal could not make things hit. He tells me that he thinks of going to war, but I want you to use all of your influence to keep him from taking such a step. He cannot stand the service, and it is a shame upon our country when old men have to go to war and do what there are so many at home too lazy or cowardly to do. I don't know which to call it, but use your influence by all means to keep him out of the army. You know as well as I do why I am so earnest in this. Don't let him know that I wrote to you this way. If your pa wants to go into business, encourage him. He will not attempt anything but what he will succeed in, and if he can make use of what little money we have, he has my consent to use it. But I want you to suit yourself in that matter. Now, dear Anna, write as often as convenient. I will write every day or two as long as I remain here in this hospital. Remember me in your prayers. I am striving to do right as near as I can, and I think I feel better for it. In fact, I know I do. From your ever affectionate husband, Tom. P.S. Surgeon Henderson calls up to see every day or so. He is very kind and takes quite an interest in any who has friends in Marysville. Your pa came over to see me yesterday in quite a spell. Yours, Tom. Covington, Kentucky, September 11th, 1862. Dear wife and darling Nettie, As we are restricted from passing outside of the hospital limits, time naturally drags heavily on our hands. So to the state of the sensation of loneliness that is constantly creeping upon the mind, we are constantly spooking around after something to divert the attention from the sense of loneliness. Some hunt books and papers while others amuse themselves with cards and checkers and various games. But for myself, as my mind is constantly recurring to the scenes and incidents of home and loved ones, I naturally take to letter writing. I expected to go to the regiment this morning, and for that purpose was ordered to report to the office to be examined by Dr. Thomas, the surgeon in charge, but he unceremoniously ordered me back to my room for a day or two at least. I feel almost as well today as I ever did, with the exception of a little weakness in the lower extremities, together with a nervousness throughout the limbs, which I think arises from inactivity. Mike Maines is still here with me and will probably stay longer than I do. He is a capital fellow and has a good deal of that quality so scarce in young men nowadays, and known by the term solid sense. We have been engaged of late in caricaturing scenes that transpire in our part of the house. He makes suggestions, and I dot them down on paper. In this way we pass a good deal of time, if not profitably, very amusingly. I had a conversation yesterday with some of the wounded Secesh that are here in the hospital. They appear to be very well satisfied with their condition and treatment, and express a hearty thankfulness that they are as well treated as they are. In fact, one of them told me that when he was put aboard the boat at Pittsburgh Landing, if he could have, his choice would rather have had his head blown off than come among the Yankees, for he had been taught to believe that he was brought up here he might consider himself well off if he got under any kind of a shelter from the weather. But he says now that he ever remembers the Covington Hospital and inmates with emotions of gratitude. There was one of the laborers on the entrenchments shot dead and another wounded the other day from standing on the embankments when they had been ordered down by the guard. But I guess this will be an example for some and help to learn them that we are actually engaged in war and in the presence of an enemy. Our pickets were fired on by the enemy night before last, and some of them wounded. One of them has been to the hospital to have his wound dressed. He was shot through the hand. I at length succeeded running down that letter that you sent me. Captain Dwyer got hold of it somehow or other and kept till I had to go and hunt it up. I don't think that was treating me just right, do you? I have half a notion what next payday comes to ask to be transferred to Captain Coulter's company. And so Nettie has got one tooth through, has she? Oh, how I would like to see the little toad for a minute or two, but I do see her and her ma, too, in my dreams, and once more live the happy hours over again that are past. Yet this separation will only make us the more dear to each other when we do meet again. I would like to write to Frank and Charlie if only I knew where to direct my letters to. You must tell me where they are in your next, if you know. Has Will returned yet from Virginia? His time must be more than out by this time. I forgot to give you my address in my first letters, and I hardly know how to tell you to write now, as I don't know how long I will remain here. They usually direct the letters of the sick to the Covington Military Hospital, but I guess you had better direct to the regiment, as it will make but little difference. Tell Noni and Emma to write to me, and I will write them both a long letter one of these days soon. I would not forget Johnny either. Tell him I will write to him too, and he must likewise return the favor. And now, dear Anna, I would not forget to speak of our dear, dear little girl. It may be some time before I get to see her again. In the meantime, be very careful to train her in a manner that we may never have reason to report ourselves for mismanagement. You know why I make this request. You know I consider the care of our human being entrusted to us of more importance than anything else that we could have entrusted to us. But that is enough on that subject. You are better prepared to teach than I am to give advice. Don't forget to ask God's blessings on your absent but ever-loving Tom. I try all the time to be good and do good, and I think I have an influence on some with whom I am associated. Write often. Don't forget the address. It is Company D, 96th Regiment, Covington, Kentucky, care of Captain Dwyer. From your ever affectionate husband, Tom. Camp Bates, Kentucky, September 27th, 1862. My own dear Anna, I have thought I would not write to you till tomorrow, but as I have such a good place, pen, ink, and paper, gratis, I will make the best use of the opportunity. The regiment went to Newport today for the purpose of attending the grand review that is to come off there. The 2nd Division is to be reviewed there today. I suppose these will be some 10 or 12 hours and soldiers in the sunshine. But you will no doubt wonder why I am not with the regiment. The simple reason is that I have been promoted and am acting in my official capacity as corporal of the guard for 24 hours, commencing at 8 o'clock this morning. There is no commissioned officers left in camp today but the officer of the day, and no non-commissioned ones but those necessary for guard duties. You must not think as I have been appointed corporal I will deserve more pay, for a corporal gets the same as a private, but his duties are not quite so heavy. We have been removed from the camp we were in the last I wrote to you. We were about 3/4 of a mile farther back, that is nearer the city, and have a battery of 3 32-pounders and 6 field pieces in front of us. We are encamped in a cornfield about 200 yards from the pike, and the battery is placed on a hill that intervenes. We had to tramp down the corn to make a place to pitch our tents, of which we now have nearly all. Last night was the first night I have slept under a shelter since I left the hospital at Covington. I received your letter yesterday, but as yet no pictures. I think that captain could not have known what he was about when he told you he was coming near our camp for the 121st Regiment, left for Louisville some 6 or 8 days ago. And if I get the pictures at all, he will have to mail them at Cincinnati to me. And if he should not do it, I don't know what I would do with him for it. For I have been so anxiously and eagerly looking for them. For I feel that even the shadow of that dear face will give me unspeakable satisfaction. But I hope for the best and think that a few days at farthest will suffice to bring them along. Dear Anna, you did not say one word in your last letter about my little girl. How is she getting along? Has she got any more teeth yet? Does she still try to walk? Or does she go on all fours? Don't forget to tell me all about her when you write again. Oh, how I should like to have the pleasure of playing just for 5 minutes with her. You say Will has got home. I would like to be there and join in the reunion. It would be a great pleasure to see him. But by the way, what does he think of baby by this time? You say your pa told you I was making piles of money making knapsacks. I think he must have misunderstood me. I did not say I was making it, but that I could if I could get released from the hospital while the 96th was in Covington. But they left the next day, and I slipped up on that calculation, and now we are out of here, where we cannot get either paint or brushes. And the boys are nearly all strapped and could not get it done if they wanted to. But the mail has arrived, and I must quit for the present. Sunday, September 28th. I've just been down back of the camp with my squad to fire the loads out of our guns that we put in last night while on guard duty, and as I have a few minutes before dinner I will use in writing. I believe I will like to get corporal very well. It is not as hard as I expected it would be. The boys appear to like me also. And I wish you would write to me at least once a week. If you only know how much good it does me to get a letter from you, you never would fail. You said you were short of money and asked me to send you some. I have just $3 left. You know I had a little when I left Delaware, Ohio, and I drew that $2 mustering in fee since we came here. Besides, I made a little making knapsacks. J.B. Williams says I cannot get my transportation until the next payday, and I don't know when that will be. I will, when I get it, send it all to you, and in the meantime, if you cannot get along, I will send you a part of what I have with me. You must try and find out what is coming to you in Marion, Ohio, and make some arrangements to get it. Don't stint yourself while you have money in the bank. I left it for your support till I should draw some more. I don't know how long we will remain here, but I think in all probability we will winter near Cincinnati, as we are held as a reserve. The reason I think we will remain here sometime is because I see that most of the regimental officers have brought their families here and rented houses in the vicinity. It is reported in camp that Theed Van Fleet is writing to his wife that he is going to resign his position and return home. At least Marsh Godman received a letter from Marion, Ohio, in which it was stated that Eleonora had made such statements. For my part, I think Company E will be as well off without him as with him. But I bring this letter to a close, as the boys are going to the Ohio River to take a swim, and I want to go along with them. I'll try and write to Em and Noni after dinner. Tell Willie and your pa to write to me. I have so many letters to write that I cannot write to all I would wish to. I expect if we remain near Cincinnati, we will either be stationed in Newport or at Camp Dennison, and if we are placed at either of these points, we will in all probability be furloughed for a few days. Marsh Gorman tells me that Parks, one of the preachers stationed in Delaware, Ohio for the last 2 years, is to take Newton's place. Oh, how I should like to be there and hear him when he comes. I think before long myself and wife will be seen going to church in Marion again. For if old Abe's proclamation don't end this war, nothing will. Talking about the Emancipation Proclamation. And I guess other folks begin to think the same way. But I must quit, as I am getting uninteresting. Don't forget to write often. Kiss Nettie for me about 40 times. Tell her that her pa will be home to see her one of these days, when he can stay and not be called away from home and all that we hold dear upon this earth, to suffer hardships that you never dream of. Remember me, dear Anna, when you go to your prayers. I still try to be a good boy and expect to come home a better man. Remember me to your friend, Mrs. Chapman. Goodbye from your ever affectionate Tom. P.S. Enclosed, I send you a sketch that I want you to preserve, as I think it can make a good picture. It is a rough sketch of our advanced picket station on the river road. It is called the Long Bridge Station. Write soon and tell me how you succeeded in getting your money from Marion, Ohio. I wrote to Marion and told them to see that you get what was coming. As we are not yet called out to drill, I will write a little now. It is pretty much hard work to write it all here, for there are so many regiments here, and they make so much noise drumming, fifing, and yelling, and the boys keep talking and chatting all the time in the tent around me. I have to write in the tent, as it is raining outside. I can now fully appreciate the great sacrifices I have made in leaving the comforts of home and the embraces of my dear, loving wife and child. I sometimes feel as if I had lost my all. The tears will involuntarily start to the eyes in spite of all I can do. Then I think again when I consider the cause we are engaged in. I cannot help but believe the great and just ruler of all things has ordered all these things for the best, and will not let those who love him and try to do his will come to harm. One of these days we will get home again, and then the reunion of our affections and congratulations of friends, with the consciousness that we have been strong and fighting for the right, will more than repay us for the hardships we have to endure. Now, dear Anna, I must stop. Don't forget to write as soon as you get this, for I am getting anxious to hear from you. You may send the first sheet of this letter to the folks in Marion if you want to. Tell Nona and Emma to answer my letters if they have not. Kiss my little girl for me. When she can understand you, tell her that her pa is coming home one of these days to see and stay with her, and that he will not go off to war any more and leave her and her ma. I can't write any more. Goodbye. Don't forget to write. Your ever affectionate husband, Tom. P.S. Direct your letters to Covington, Kentucky, and they will reach me. Ever yours, Tom. I wrote this on the head of a snare drum, and that accounts for the miserable way in which it is written. Camp Bates, Kentucky, October 2nd, 1862. Dear wife and little daughter, I received those pictures last evening, and of all the welcome things I have received from home, they were the most welcome. If you could only have seen me as with eager hands I grasped the long-expected and to me invaluable package, you with me would I have wept tears of joy. Now I have with me and ever near my heart those ever dear images of a wife and child, that little world to me that I left far behind to feel for and sympathize with me in my hours and days of loneliness and separation. Do not blame me, dear, dear Anna, for this outbreak of feeling, for I feel that I could fasten my lips with one lasting fervent kiss to the favored plate that bears the images of forms that are more than all the world beside me. I have nothing new that is of consequence to write to you, unless it would be some of the incidents of camp life, and you know the field in which we have to gather them only extends to the regimental guard lines. We have had considerable excitement in camp for the last 12 hours in anticipation of a move that is to be made to some new point soon. How soon or how far, we don't know. It may be only for a half mile, but in all probability we will move from this point entirely. The most reliable conclusion we can arrive at from the current camp rumors is that our destination will be Western Virginia. For my part, I am willing to go almost anywhere, so it is some place where we can get good water and have less sickness. We have not less than 150 on the sick list at the present time, about 100 of them who are in the regimental hospital. You inquired what had become of my friend Maines. He left the hospital in Kentucky the day before I did, and when I came to the regiment he had been transferred to the regimental hospital, where he has remained ever since. I have seen him once or twice since. It is the opinion of the surgeons that he will not be fit for duty as a soldier any more, or rather that he cannot get into condition if he has to remain with the regiment. I am writing this on the head of a drum while I am sitting in a cramped condition, which will account for the miserably scrawling manner in which it is executed. Our captain has been in miserable health since we came into Kentucky. The prospect now is that we will lose his services before long, and if that becomes necessary, it will be an irreparable loss to the company, as he is a man of much experience, having served 9 months in the Army in Western Virginia. Lieutenant J.B. Williams has been acting adjutant for a few days, as the adjutant of the regiment is sick and gone home. If he does not get back, John will hold the position by right of position, he being the first lieutenant of the regiment, but his rank will be the same, for the adjutant only ranks as first lieutenant. In case things should take place in the foregoing style, Second Lieutenant Litzenberg will be our captain, and J.B. Godman our first lieutenant, with Sergeant Bartlett as second lieutenant. I can't tell who will get the position of orderly sergeant, as that will be at the option of the incoming captain, but I guess the sergeants and corporals will come up in regular consecutive order. But I must stop, as it is getting so noisy that I can hardly hear myself think. It is just the time for guard mounting, and the whole regimental band is out, and the boys are just dividing their rations, and such a wrangling noise and jabbering as they make would disgrace forever any flock of geese. But this is war times, and we must take things as easy as possible. As soon as we move, I will write you. In the meantime, you must direct your letters as usual. So goodbye now. Kiss my little daughter. Tell her her pa is coming home to see her one of these days. Your ever affectionate husband, Tom. P.S. It is just reported that we are to make a 3 days' march soon. I don't know how true it is. Tom. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.